Lexie Hull gave everything she had, then got axed for exposing what everyone else was too scared to say. After dragging her injured back up and down the court in one of the most high-stakes playoff games of the year, Hull dropped a double-double and left it all on the hardwood. But instead of being celebrated, she was effectively punished. Her offense, calling out the corrupt officiating that handed the Las Vegas Aces a playoff gift-wrap win. What should have been a defining moment for the Indiana Fever was buried beneath a mountain of missed calls, blown challenges, and an officiating crew that looked like it had picked a side.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
The fallout was instant. Aaliyah Boston's lockdown defense on Aya Wilson, the league's MVP, had nearly iced the Aces. But those efforts were repeatedly undone by whistles that only seemed to blow one way. When Boston had Wilson boxed in, the refs bailed her out. When Indiana defenders got mugged down low, silence. Even Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray, who stepped up for Vegas, didn't have to work nearly as hard when the refs were clearing the lane for them. The imbalance was so blatant, analysts started using words like rig and daylight robbery, and Hull had the nerve to agree. Instead of issuing a fine or quietly moving on, the WNBA cut ties. Sources say Hull's vocal criticism of officiating and refusal to play the good soldier didn't sit well with league leadership. It wasn't just about her comments, it was about the message. The league wasn't interested in a player shining a spotlight on the very thing that fans were already roasting online. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell, another Fever standout, had to watch her team's best chance at postseason glory collapse under the weight of whistle manipulation. Game momentum swung wildly after every blown call, and the Fever's energy turned into visible frustration. Over 17,000 fans packed into Gamebridge Fieldhouse for Game 4, not just to see a win, but to witness a comeback in the face of injustice. Hull had been the embodiment of that fight, sacrificing her body, refusing to fold, and demanding accountability when others stayed quiet. That made her dangerous. Her firing wasn't just about keeping players in line. It was a warning shot to every athlete thinking of speaking out. What started as a gritty playoff series has now exposed a deeper rot. Hull's ousting confirms what fans feared. Calling out corruption in the WNBA doesn't lead to reform. It leads to removal. And while Indiana fought to reclaim their respect on the floor, it's clear that no amount of hustle can overcome a rigged system when the league itself refuses to face the mirror. This wasn't just a playoff series. It was a war between grit and politics, between underdogs and powerhouses, and between truth and the broken system that tried to silence it. And at the center of that storm was Lexie Hull, battered, hurting, and absolutely unrelenting. Game 3 between the Indiana Fever and the Las Vegas Aces should have been remembered as the night Hull cemented herself in franchise history. Playing through a brutal back injury, she gave everything. 16 points, 10 rebounds, critical three-pointers that kept Indiana alive. Her body told her to sit down. She refused. Her team needed her. She showed up. That kind of performance? That's the stuff legends are made of. But instead of being the story, Lexie Hull was buried under a wave of controversy, bad calls, and league silence. She didn't just walk away with bruises. She walked away questioning the integrity of the game itself. Because what happened in that series was bigger than one player. It was a public unraveling of officiating so biased, so blatant. Fans and analysts across the board were calling it what it looked like: corruption. The officiating in Game 3 was a disaster. Missed calls, uneven whistles, and a failed challenge review that erased Indiana's momentum in real time. Every time the Fever built steam, the referees stepped in. Fouls called on clean plays. Challenges ignored. And every questionable decision, it seemed to benefit the Aces. People weren't subtle about it. Fans called it daylight robbery. Analysts called it rigged. And on the court, the Fever, who had clawed their way back from injuries and setbacks all season, looked stunned, not by Vegas's skill, but by the constant interference of the officiating crew. This wasn't just a game being played. It was being controlled. Aya Wilson, the reigning MVP, was locked down by Indiana rookie Aaliyah Boston. That's not opinion, it's fact. Boston was everywhere, contesting shots, cutting off drives, disrupting plays. Wilson had one of her worst shooting nights of the season, and the stat sheet reflected it. But you wouldn't have known that from the outcome, because every time Indiana made a stand, the whistles gave Vegas another chance. To be clear, no one is questioning the Aces' talent. Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray stepped up. They earned buckets. They made plays. But the momentum of the game, the rhythm, the flow, was dictated by refs who never let Indiana settle. Every close call leaned one direction. Every challenge seemed predetermined. It wasn't just bad officiating. It was manipulative. And through all this, Lexie Hull kept playing. She dove for loose balls. She hit contested shots. She limped down the court and still found ways to contest on defense. Her back was shot, but she didn't care. That game meant too much. That jersey meant too much. And when the final buzzer sounded, despite everything working against her, she had become the heart of Indiana's fight. But her reward? Allegedly being fired from the league. Let that sink in. A player who played through injury. A player who never stopped competing. A player who, after the game, voiced the truth about what happened, gets dropped, and not with some public farewell or thanks for her sacrifice. She was silenced, quietly, abruptly, like she was a problem. Her real mistake? Speaking up, calling out the officiating for what it was. Making noise in a league that clearly didn't want anyone shaking the table. Because when Lexie Hull pointed out the inconsistencies, she wasn't just venting. She was exposing a pattern. A system where officials could influence outcomes without oversight. A system that, in that series, made a team earn their points twice while the other coasted on whistles. The missed challenge in Game 3 wasn't just a glitch. It was the breaking point. That was the play that shifted the entire tone. The crowd knew it. The broadcast knew it. The Fever bench erupted. It was a momentum killer. A decision so obviously wrong it could have been reversed with a basic replay. But nothing happened. No explanation. No accountability. And fans didn't forget. When Game 4 came around, Indiana wasn't just playing for a win. They were fighting for dignity. Over 17,000 fans packed into Gainbridge Fieldhouse. The tension in that building wasn't just playoff nerves. It was defiance. The crowd had seen what happened in Game 3. They weren't going to be quiet about it. Indiana came out swinging. They leaned on Boston's defense again. They fired up Kelsey Mitchell for speed and scoring. And yes, Lexie Hull fought to the paint again, refusing to let Game 3 be her last word. They played like they were trying to reclaim their names, like they were trying to win in spite of the officiating. It wasn't about stats anymore. It was about justice. That game became something symbolic. It was about proving that the sport still belonged to players, not the refs, not the narrative, not the league offices. It was about standing up when it's easier to stay quiet. And it was personal. Hull became the face of that fight. Because when the series ends and the confetti falls, people don't remember just who won. They remember who stood up. And Hull stood tall, injury and all. But here's the part that really stings. The league didn't defend her. They didn't acknowledge her performance. They didn't stand behind their officials or address the backlash. They just let the conversation die. Or at least they tried to. But fans didn't let it go. They called it out. They flooded social media. They made noise. Because sports fans aren't dumb. They know when something's off. They know when a game feels stolen. And when a player like Hull gives everything and gets tossed for speaking the truth. That's not just a bad look. That's a crisis of credibility. The bigger story here isn't just about one game. It's about what kind of league the WNBA wants to be. Do they want to be known for empowering players or punishing them when they speak out? Do they want fans who believe in fair competition or fans who watch with doubt and suspicion? Do they want playoff games defined by effort and brilliance or officiating and controversy? Because what happened in that series wasn't just poor management. It was a message. And if the league doesn't address it, it's going to echo well beyond this postseason. Officiating isn't a side note. It determines legacies. It defines careers. And when it's as inconsistent as one-sided, the entire sport loses credibility. Lexie Hull deserved better. The Fever deserved better. The fans deserve better. And if this league wants to keep growing, wants to keep building off the momentum of stars like Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, and Kelsey Mitchell, it needs to protect the integrity of the game. That starts with transparency, with accountability, and with respecting the voices of players who bleed for this sport. Because when you silence the ones who care the most, who's left to defend the game? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Was Lexie Hull treated unfairly? Is the league losing credibility? Should the WNBA implement major officiating reform? Don't forget to subscribe for more breakdowns of the biggest meltdowns, viral fails, and sports controversies shaking the world. The game may be over, but the fallout is just beginning. The fallout from the Lexie Hull situation is bigger than one playoff series. It's bigger than one player, one team, or even one decision. What happened to Hull is now a symbol for everything that's broken, hidden, or quietly tolerated inside a league that claims to champion progress and quality. Let's talk about the why. Why would a league allegedly move to sideline or silence a player like Lexie Hull? Because she told the truth. She spoke about what thousands of fans are already screaming online, that the officiating in the Indiana Vegas series wasn't just bad, it was biased. And when that kind of criticism comes from a player who just put her body on the line, it hits harder. It's not a salty fan tweet or a hot take from the sidelines. It's firsthand. It's earned. It's damning. Hull didn't throw tantrums. She didn't grandstand. She fought through physical pain and a hostile environment, and then dared to pull the curtain back just a little. That alone was apparently too much. If you're wondering why fans are using words like corruption, this is why. It's not just about the missed calls or blown reviews. It's about what followed, the silence, the lack of accountability, and the quiet consequences for anyone who dared speak up. The WNBA, a league that markets itself on empowerment, turned around and allegedly punished a player for doing exactly that. That's not empowering. That's erasure. And it's not just Hull who should be concerned. Every player in the league just got a message. If you criticize the system, even when it fails you publicly and blatantly, you're expendable. It's chilling, because what Hull did on that court wasn't just physically courageous. It was emotionally fearless. She stared down MVPs, elite scorers, and a stacked Vegas squad while carrying a back injury. Every step she took hurt, and she took every step anyway. There are few performances in recent Fever history more inspiring or selfless than what she did in Game 3. 16 points, 10 rebounds, huge defensive stops, game-saving threes. That alone should have earned her a long-term spot with the franchise. That kind of toughness, you build teams around that. Instead, she's allegedly been let go in the shadows. The move is cowardly, and it doesn't just reflect badly on the league. It reflects badly on every executive who allowed it to happen without a single public defense. If she said something false, prove it. If the officiating was justified, show us. But no one did that. They just removed her and moved on like it never happened. And the fans, they noticed. The calls in that series weren't debatable judgment errors. They were game-altering. Game 3 was swinging in Indiana's favor, and just as they were finding their rhythm, a critical challenge was blatantly ignored. Everyone saw it. Broadcasters called out in real time. Analysts posted clips frame by frame. The replay was clear. The call should have been reversed. It wasn't. Vegas got the ball. Indiana lost momentum. The Fever bench was livid. The fans lost it. And the game was never the same. That one call wasn't just a missed opportunity. It was a tone setter. It told Indiana, you're not getting out of this series clean. No matter how well you play, the rules won't be the same. Aaliyah Boston dominated defensively. She made life hell for Aya Wilson, who, again, is the league MVP. Boston held her to a bad shooting night and completely disrupted the Aces' offensive sets. But every time Indiana defended too well, whistle. Every time the Fever tried to run transition, whistle. Every bump became a foul. Every 50-50 ball somehow ended in Vegas' hands. And when the game ended, the story should have been about Boston's elite defense, or Hull's toughness, or the team's cohesion despite setbacks. Instead, it was about officiating. And now, it's about retaliation. Hull didn't play politics. She didn't run to the media. She made her point the way athletes always do, on the floor. Then she opened her mouth just enough to call out what everyone already knew. And she's gone for it. The timing is loud. The silence from the league is louder. But the message? That's deafening. Meanwhile, Indiana had to go into game for knowing they weren't just playing against a super team. They were playing against the optics, against the whistles, against the momentum that had been stolen from them the night before. But they didn't back down. Gamebridge Fieldhouse was rocking. Over 17,000 fans, all of them ready to fight for something bigger than a win. They weren't just there to cheer, they were there to push back, to hold space for the team that got robbed the night before. And the Fever felt it. Boston played like a veteran. Mitchell exploded with pace. Hull, still hurting, brought energy that couldn't be measured in stats. Every loose ball was a mission. Every basket was a declaration. You will not break us. That game was about redemption. It wasn't just a must-win. It was a must-prove. And for large stretches, Indiana looked like they were ready to rewrite the series. But the shadow of what happened in Game 3 loomed large. Because when you lose a game to bad officiating, you're not just playing against your opponent the next night. You're playing against doubt. You're playing with frustration in your body and injustice in your chest. You start second-guessing everything. Your timing, your positioning, even your value. That's the damage bad officiating does. It doesn't just affect the scoreboard. It affects minds. And the WNBA is pretending none of this happened. They haven't acknowledged the complaints. They haven't addressed the officiating. They haven't responded to the outcry. And most shamefully, they haven't said a word about Lexie Hull. The only people keeping her name alive are the fans, the teammates, and the people who refuse to let integrity be quietly buried under a postseason PR campaign. Let's be clear, Lexie Hull wasn't fired for underperforming. She wasn't cut because she didn't fit the team. She was removed because she became inconvenient to a system that didn't want to answer for its own failures. And if the league thinks this story is going away, it isn't. Not when fans are calling out inconsistencies. Not when players are clearly fed up. And not when people like Hull continue to be sacrificed to protect a version of professionalism that doesn't include accountability. This is about more than one series. This is about how leagues handle dissent. About whether players are allowed to speak when a game fails them. About whether a sport that's built on fight and fairness can survive when fairness is negotiable. The WNBA is standing at a crossroads, and how they handle what happens next will define more than a postseason. It'll define whether fans trust the product, whether players trust the system, and whether integrity is something this league is really willing to fight for. Lexie Hull gave everything and got erased. Now it's up to the people who watched it happen to decide what that says about the league they love. Lexie Hull didn't just walk into a playoff series. She walked into a battleground. She showed up battered but unbreakable and played the game of her life. She didn't complain. She didn't fake anything. She pushed through injury and poured everything she had into 40 minutes of basketball that should have been remembered as her defining moment. Instead, it's remembered for something else. What the league allegedly did to her afterward. Let's be clear, Hull wasn't benched, demoted, or put on the injured list. She was allegedly fired after one of the most gutsy, high-stakes performances of her career, after speaking up about the exact thing that thousands of fans were talking about on social media, after giving a voice to what the whole country saw with their own eyes, biased, inconsistent, momentum-killing officiating. And now she's gone. Not one press conference. Not one farewell post. Not a single quote from a league official. No thank you, no explanation, just silence. The kind of silence that feels intentional. The kind of silence that reeks of retaliation. And the most infuriating part? She was right. The officiating was a disaster. The missed challenge in Game 3? That wasn't a minor error. That was a turning point. Indiana had clawed its way back into the game. The Fever had momentum. The crowd was lit. The players were locked in. And then, boom! Just like that, a bad call was reviewed, and the energy was gone. The Aces got the advantage. Indiana got the whistle. The game flipped, and that one moment changed everything. Hull saw it. Everyone saw it. She just had the guts to say it out loud. The league could have acknowledged the mistake, issued a statement, taken some accountability. But instead, they went quiet. Then Hull disappears from the roster. Coincidence? You decide. This is the kind of thing that shakes trust in a league. The WNBA wants to grow. It wants more fans, more sponsors, more media coverage. But how can you build a sustainable product when your own players don't feel protected? When referees can tilt the floor, and the only consequence is for the player who points it out. It's not just Lexie Hull who loses in this. It's the whole locker room. Every athlete who saw what happened knows that they're one honest moment away from being next. Say the wrong thing, question the wrong call, challenge the wrong people, and you're out. That's the message. And it's disgusting. The Indiana Fever gave everything this postseason. Through injuries, through setbacks, through adversity. They pushed a championship-caliber team to the edge. And at the center of that was a group of players who believed in each other, who sacrificed, who fought. Hull was a core part of that. She wasn't the biggest name on the team. She didn't have MVP buzz. But what she brought was irreplaceable. Defense, grit, hustle, and leadership. She guarded tough assignments. She hit timely shots. She kept the energy high. Every coach wants a Lexie Hull. Every team needs a Lexie Hull. And yet, somehow, the league decided she was the problem. Not the refs. Not the bad calls. Not the missed review. Not the perception of bias. Just her. It sends a chilling message not just to the Fever, but to the entire league. Keep your head down. Don't speak up. Fall in line. Is that what we're doing now? Is this the future of the WNBA, where players who hustle, bleed, and grind for their teams get discarded the moment they challenge authority? If so, it's a betrayal of everything the league claims to stand for. This was supposed to be a league built by players and for players, a place where women's voices matter, a league that prides itself on transparency and fairness. But when Lexie Hull spoke out, all of that branding got tossed out the window, and fans noticed. They care. They're angry. They're tired of the silence. Because when a player puts their body on the line for the badge and then gets erased for telling the truth, that's not just a team decision. That's a league-wide failure. So here's the question. What now? Does the WNBA pretend this never happened? Do they let officiating inconsistencies slide again next season? Do they continue letting silence speak louder than accountability? Or do they finally own it? Do they finally protect the players who make this league watchable? Do they finally admit that integrity must matter more than image? Lexie Hull may be off the roster, but she's not forgotten. She stood up when it counted. She exposed something that needed to be said. And if this league has any conscience left, they'll remember who stood tall and who stayed quiet. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Should Lexie Hull be reinstated? Is the WNBA headed toward a bigger accountability crisis? And what changes need to happen before next season? Hit subscribe if you're done with sugar-coated spin and want the real breakdowns, the meltdowns, the backroom drama, and the moments that actually matter. Because in this league, what happens off the court is starting to define everything on it.